little nuances and all of the little elements that go into the casting process. And I'll talk a little bit about what it looks like from that side of the glass today as well. So I hope you find this informative. I hope you find the information helpful. And most importantly, I hope it will help you book more work. If you see me looking off to the left a little bit, it's because I've got the screen in front of me that I'm talking to the camera. I've also got a screen to my left where I'm looking at some of these slides. So if I'm referring back and forth, that's what I'm doing. There's nobody hiding in here taking notes or making sure I stay politically correct, although I will do my best to do so. In any case, let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit. And by the way, Laura or Juanita, do you guys have the ability to share my profile page?
Yes, give me 1 minute while I find a link.
Okay. So I'll ask them to pull that up in a moment. For the moment, though, let's go into talking about the profile first and foremost. And the profile is the first element that goes into making sure you're visible, making sure you're searchable, and making sure that you are interesting to clients who may land on that profile and who may be using it to think about whether or not they're going to hire you. If you've got a link down there to my profile, if you guys want to pull that up maybe in a separate window or in a separate tab, you can refer back and forth to it. And if you look at my profile, one of the first things that will jump out at you is that there's nothing subtle going on my profile. I'm very proud to trumpet my credentials. I'm very proud to trumpet my client list. I'm very proud to talk about, all of the other things that I think sell me to potential buyers, and I'm not shy about doing it. And there's a reason for that. And some of you have taken my one-on-one success and online casting course and other things like that in the past, and you've probably heard me say this a few times. But the reason that I am so aggressive in the way that I pitch myself on my profile, it's not because I'm an arrogant jerk. Don't ask Anna. That's really my wife. It's really not the reason. But it's because there's a very big difference between the kinds of clients that you find on an online casting site and the traditional brick and mortar agency-based world of voiceover. And the difference is that our agents, they've got 100 of us on their roster. They know that, if we did a national commercial in the morning, it was probably in our bathrobe with 3 days of stubble. Hopefully not for any of the ladies here, but I might have had a little stubble when I did my last one. And they know it's not a glamorous business. They know it's a bit of a sausage making enterprise, and it's not quite as sexy and glamorous as a lot of people out there think it is. So agents know it's garbage in, garbage out. But the people who are hiring off of online casting sites and off of Voice123, about 50% of them are having their very first encounter hiring a voice actor directly. Even some of the production companies and ad agencies you see on Voice123 have previously gone through agents, have previously gone through other means of securing talent. Now they're doing it on their own. And most of the people hiring off of online casting sites, unlike our agents, are still actually impressed by what we do for a living. So it's our job to spin and sell ourselves on these sites in a way that we might not with our agents, that we might not even do on our websites, okay, but that we're going to do a little bit more aggressively here, because we want Linda in HR to go back to her boss and say, hey, I just hired the guy who's voiced for, Jack Daniels or Chevrolet or whatever it may be. And we're paying him $400 to do this 2-minute internal. Linda's boss is happy. Linda's happy. I'm happy because I'm getting pretty close to union scale for a $400 non-union, or for a short 2-minute non-union job. It works well for everybody. So don't be afraid to talk. If you've got credentials, don't be afraid to trumpet them. Don't be afraid to, to just put it out there and say, here I am, here's who I am, here's what I've done, and sell yourself a little bit. I like to always say, do it within the bounds of ethics and good taste. What do I mean by ethics and good taste? Good taste is a matter of taste, and hopefully I'm on the right side of it here. Ethics, what I mean by that is that if you get hired for a spot for Ford of Piscataway, New Jersey, please don't say you're the voice of Ford. I've seen people do that, and it's not a really good way to get a good reputation in the business. However, you can certainly put Ford of Piscataway up there. On the other hand, though, we talk about spin a little bit and staying on the right side of that ethical line. If you get hired for Ford corporate, and you're doing a 2-minute narration that's going to play in their boardroom, and the check to you or to your agent or whoever winds up getting that money says Ford on it, you can put Ford on your client list. You still can't say you're the voice of Ford, but you can put Ford proper on your client list, and it's a legitimate credential. You don't have to specify it was a 2-minute corporate internal. You just put Ford up there. It's a big name. Again, if you're under NDA, don't do this. Often you want to ask and get clients' permission before you list their name on the site. I always do that whenever I've got a client that I want to use as a credential. I'll just mention, do you mind if I add you to my public client list? 99% of the time they say yes. If you're under an NDA, don't do it, because then you could get sued. But assuming that they've given you a release, put them up there. You know, the very first job I did for Disney, I've done some neat stuff for them over the years, but the very first thing I did for them many moons ago was as an automated voice on their soda machines and in their theme parks. And I was the guy, it's a very Disney thing. On certain soda machines, if you went up to them and you tried to get a refill, you would hear me say, "No free refills. Please see cashier." And it was, yeah, it's Disney. But the check said Disney on it. I'm like, all right, I can put Disney on my client list for the first time, because I actually worked for Disney. It wasn't a movie trailer or a national campaign or anything, but it was Disney. So things like that. Don't be afraid to be aggressive in promoting yourself while understanding where that line is and doing your best not to cross it. The contact information, it's the next thing you saw on that first slide that they put up there. And you see right here front and center on my profile, I've got my external contact information. And now I will do this and remind Juanita and all of the people at Voice123 how much we love them. But at the end of the day, this game is about making these clients ours and building long-term and lasting relationships. And it's always better if you can book a client off of the site than through a site that's got 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 of your closest competitors. So put your contact information up there, make it easy for them to find you, and make it easy for yourself to build a relationship with those clients. Voice123 supports this. They're not trying to get in your way. They're not trying to take your money. They're not trying to keep your client. God bless them. Put your contact information up there front and center. Good. I want to talk about this first section here in voice description, and we're already talking about some of the things that you want to have in there. This is the most important section of your profile. The reason this is the most important section of your profile is it is because it's what people land on if they're doing a search or if they're listening to your audition and then they want to find out more about you. This is what they see. This is the first impression that you make. And Voice123 has done a very good job of putting together a structure after the voice description section for you to fill out other information. And that's great, and you can put that information there. But from a optics perspective, from the perspective of wanting to impress a client when they land there, what you have in this voice description section, this is what most people are going to look at. They have short attention spans. This is the ADD world of voiceover. They're going to take a look at what is here, and it's going to be the primary driver in terms of the first impression that you make upon them when they land on your profile page. So what that means is that you want to have the vast majority of your important content in this voice description section. And if the ladies here will scroll down a little bit, you can see that I've got about customer service, I've got my experience, I've got credentials, I've got a big client list up there, I've got a big description of my voice here. That goes on for what? That's 6 paragraphs, okay? Before you've got to scroll down 2 or 3 times before you hit voice genders and ages and that next section. I want to hit you over the head with what is in my voice description section, because when you land there, in addition to my demos, I want you to go, wow, who is this guy? Okay. And now you don't have to have all of these credentials to make this work for yourself. If you're brand new to the business, if you do have the credentials, get them up there. Okay. When I do my one-on-one coaching, one of the most grading things I see is I get a really good talent, an experienced talent, somebody who's been working for 5 or 10 years and has lots of big name clients. And I land on their Voice123 profile and it's one paragraph, briefly describing their voice and saying hello. And their client list is buried at the bottom where Voice123 has that area for a client list. Get those clients front and center. That's what you're selling. People want to see that you're a working voice talent. That's a huge credential. And by the way, even if you've only got a handful, I wouldn't list 1 or 2 clients if that's all you've got. If you've got 3 or more, you can do something cute. Again, this goes back to being on the right side of that ethical line. You don't want to say, I've got a massive client list, including blah, 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 blah. But what you can say is, I have worked with companies such as A, B, and C. Once you have three, you can craft a sentence like that that is designed to be as impressive as possible with the list that you have, without going into the red zone of lying or telling any half truths. So once you have a few clients, get them up there, use the language in an effective manner. As you get more, add them, but don't be afraid to put small brand clients up there. It doesn't matter if it's not somebody people have ever heard of. People want to see that you're working, and having a client list is a good thing. But if you don't have one, if you're brand new, what can you do to overcome that? First thing you can do, and I'm going to talk in a few minutes about why demos, quality, professionally produced demos, are so important on Voice123. But the other thing that you can do, in addition to having those quality, professionally produced demos, is simply to give me some content here to flesh out this voice description section. And the way that you do that, even if you don't have a client list, you see I've got a good paragraph up there about my customer service philosophy. You should do the same. Make it even a little bit bigger than mine if you don't have a client list. You see that as you come down a little bit, I've got under, let's go down just a little bit more here, and powerful, versatile voice. This section here, I've got 6 paragraphs talking about what I do, what I sound like, and blah, 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 blah. Give me something like this as well. Make it as fleshed out and as interesting as you possibly can. Don't just stuff it with keywords, okay? If you want to keyword stuff for search, do that down at the bottom of the profile where nobody's going to see it, because it looks a little bit desperate when you just copy paste a huge list of keywords. It can be effective to help with search, but put it somewhere out of sight a little bit. Here, you want to create something that's narrative. You want to create something that's interesting. I don't know that mine's the most amusing that I've ever read. I did a webinar with one student once who, brand new to the business, but the description that she wrote of her voice and her passion for the business and her customer service philosophy was so amusing and so well written that it made me want to hire her, just because I thought she would be fun to work with. But whatever you do, give me some substance here, paragraphs of content that make it look substantial. Honestly, I don't expect people to read all this stuff. Okay. So make it good. Don't obsess over it, but I don't expect them to read all of it. What I expect is I expect them to land on this profile page. I expect them to see enough substance that they say, okay, this person looks pretty serious. There's nothing on here that gives them any hint about whether you're new to the business or whether you've been doing this for 20 years, unless you put it on there. And don't put anything on your profile that's going to indicate you're a newbie. That will scare especially more sophisticated buyers off. Don't lie, but don't put anything on there that says, I've been doing this for 6 months and I'm really hoping to get started and make a career out of it. That's a red flag for certain buyers. That being said, if I see some content here, I'm going to say, okay, this person looks serious. I may not read much of it. I'm just going to look for substance. Then I'm going to listen to your demos, especially if I found you through search. I'm going to listen to your demos. And the demos are ultimately going to be what decides whether or not I'm very serious about hiring you or sending you an invitation. But having this content here that to the eye says, okay, they've taken the time, they're serious, they look like a professional, it's a good first impression, and it is the first impression that you want to make. So other things you can do, if you've got a small client list, get some testimonials from those clients and put them up in the voice description section. Anything you can do to flesh this out with quality content is going to be helpful. Good. And I think the ladies now will show you how you can do this and where you can find this section.
Sure, we will. Just give me 1 minute. I'll have to share this screen again. So guys, if since this voice description section is it is very important, as J. Michael said, you can find it by going to my profile and then clicking my voice details. If you scroll down, you'll see a section that says additional voice details. So this is where you want to type in your voice description.
Very good.
Over to you, J. Michael.
Thank you. And so we're on to the next slide here, and let's have a little bit more of an in-depth look at the other profile elements. Actually, if you guys could go back to my profile for a moment, please. And so I'd like to take a look at some of the mechanical elements on the profile that will be helpful for a variety of different reasons, including optimizing your ability to be invited by SmartCast and also optimizing your visibility in search. I'll give him just a second to get back there. I do a little dance in the meantime. You don't want to see that, trust me. There we go. Okay, so if we'll scroll down a little bit past the voice description section and we'll come to ages. So voice genders and ages that I can perform. Most people should have young adult, middle-aged, and senior listed here. If you can do teen, if you can do child, that's great. If you have an extremely age-specific voice, and don't be too hard on yourself on this. Some people inadvertently try to pigeonhole themselves, or they've been told that they sound a certain way and they can't do something else. Be honest with yourself, but don't pigeonhole yourself too aggressively. But if you're Lisa Biggs and you sound, you're never going to sound older than 16, no matter how hard you try. Fantastic talent. You're not going to put senior on here. You might not put middle-aged on here. If you're 72 and you sound 72, you're probably not going to put young adult on here. You may still want to put middle-aged on there, though. But the vast majority of people who have voices that, can do anything from 25 to 65, and that's a lot of folks. Young adult, middle-aged, and senior. And the reason that you want to have these three up on your profile is that these words mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I have been hired with my standard read, which sounds probably about 40 years old, in all three of these categories at one time or another. Moreover, again, middle-aged, senior mean different things to different people. You've got a lot of millennials out there casting right now who think anything over 35. I've seen this. I've actually seen them say no older voices, nobody over 32. You get people out there who think that 35 and older is senior or middle-aged. So jobs will wind up in categories where they don't necessarily belong in an objective sense, and you don't want to miss out on those opportunities. You don't want to lose out on the possibility of getting the SmartCast invitation. So unless you absolutely can't do, and you also don't want to lose out on search visibility. So unless you absolutely can't do one of these age ranges, have all three of these up, and they will help you with SmartCast. They will also help you in search. And something a lot of people don't know, and I'm going to go into more detail about this when I talk about demos in a moment, but something a lot of people don't know about online casting sites, and Voice123 is a leading example of this, is that about half of the work that's being hired through Voice123 is being hired by direct invitation and by direct booking, private invitation and direct booking. So if you are not visible in search with certain elements of the terminology, or if that's a criteria they select and you don't match it and you may not come up, you're invisible and you're not accessing as many opportunities as you possibly can, because for every job that you see being posted publicly on Voice123, there's another one being hired that you don't see. And not just because of SmartCast, but there's another one that you don't see because it's not going to a SmartCast or a public invitation. It's being hired privately, or somebody's just finding the phone number on your profile and making a call. So all three of those languages of which I'm a native speaker, English, USA, and Canada, should be listed first, assuming that that is your mother tongue and you do it well. English other, which is very general, is my choice for the second language. If you're primarily, I was teaching somebody yesterday who's an Irish speaker, does a very good U.S. accent, but you hear a little Irish in there, and you hear some British, and he can do Australian very well. So he can list a lot of other things up here. English other is it for me. If you can do other ones well, then those should follow. But assuming you are a North American talent, if you're Spanish, you want to put Spanish up there if that's your mother tongue and you have a heavy Spanish accent when you're speaking English. But if English, USA, and Canada, if you really do have a mother tongue North American accent, make sure that's first, as that is the category under which the vast majority of jobs are being posted, and is the category that SmartCast is seeing the most. This next section here, I offer my services for these recording purposes. These correspond with the demo categories on Voice123, and we're going to come back and have a really close look at this list in just a moment. But the more, the merrier on here. And I know you guys see adult content on there and wondering what that's all about. It's not necessarily what you think it is, and it was Margarita Rueda, formerly of Voice123, who disabused me of that knowledge. I never used to have that up on my profile until I talked to her at VO Atlanta last year, and she said, yeah, we do get some naughty things in that category from time to time, but the vast majority of what you're talking about in that category can be things like beer commercials or firearms, tobacco. You may have your own reasons for not wanting to do those jobs, but if you are interested in doing those jobs, they're perfectly legitimate, often well-paying jobs, and sometimes they're posted to adult content. So I've got that up there for that reason, because I don't want to be left out if it's something good, and if it's something off the wall, I'll probably just delete it and not read too far. Good. And let's go down to jobs I'm willing to take, the next section. Now, I'm non-union. I've got all of these unions listed under jobs that I'm willing to take. Couple of reasons for that. With SAG-AFTRA in the U.S., you can do some eligible jobs before you're actually required to join. For the other unions, I don't know the way it works, but if you've got a job that's union, I'm non-union. I'm not governed by any of these union policies, and I'm perfectly happy to take whatever job you want to bring along if you want to work with me on it. That's not my business how you want to proceed with that. So I put all of that up there so I don't miss out anything. However, under my union affiliations and memberships, I have none because I am non-union, and that also is, yours should reflect this as well. If you are union, I would still encourage you, especially under the My Union affiliations and memberships, to list non-union, because the vast majority of work that's being posted on Voice123 is non-union work. And if you post union there, it could potentially have some negative impact with SmartCast, and you may see fewer jobs. You also may not appear in search results if somebody selects non-union. So make sure that you put non-union there, because it is just, I mean, it's 99.9% of the work on the site. Recording and delivery capabilities, put whatever you can do on there. The more the merrier, obviously. You see that I've got just about everything available to my clients, so the more of these things you have, the better. Phone patch is one that confuses some people these days. Most clients are very happy to consider Skype or Zoom, something like this, to be a phone patch, because the sound quality is just as good. So if you can do Skype or Zoom, I would put phone patch up there. You don't have to have the old-fashioned box. The quality is not, it's actually inferior to what we have today on some of these VoIP services. IPDTL is an up-and-coming service. If you don't have traditional ISDN, IPDTL can be used as an ISDN bridge. That's a paid service, but it's a very effective service. You can dial into the SPIDs of the receiving studio, just like it's over a normal ISDN line, and the quality is just as good. And these days, most people who are asking for ISDN will accept ISDN over IPDTL. Handful still want the real thing, but they're very set in their ways. David Gilbert asked, do you check off Source Connect or IPDTL if you don't have yet, but would get if you are required to do the job? As long as you're committed to getting them, if you're required to do the job, sure, that's fine. But you don't want to be in a position where you have to say, I wasn't quite telling the truth there. So make sure that if you put it up there, I mean, Source Connect proper is not the cheapest thing in the world. So if you list it, make sure that you're willing to spend that money if you get a job that requires it. Pre-post and production services that I offer. Again, the more the merrier here. These things that I've got listed here, am I going to do all of these myself? No, I actually outsource some of this stuff. Sometimes I can make a profit on the outsourcing. You can find on certain freelance sites people who will do a lot of this kind of work for $30, $40, $50 an hour and do a very good job. And there are a lot of clients very happy to pay 3, 4, 5 times that. So you can make some profit in the reselling of subcontracted services to your clients. Production of radio commercials is a good example. I get that request from time to time. And most of the time I'll charge a client $200, $250 to produce in addition to the voiceover. And that's something that will often cost me $50, $75 to get done if it's not too effects intensive. So another possibility to make money, think, in this business, the more oars that you have in the water, the better off you're going to be. Think about as many different streams of income as you can, and offering, subcontracted services to buyers. That's something that makes their life easier. They can have kind of a one-stop shop. And remember, a lot of the people hiring on Voice123 are new to this, and they may not have a full production team on hand. So the more that you can do, the more helpful it's going to be to again, raising additional income. Scroll down just a little bit here: accents, impersonations, characters, and dialects. Again, the more the merrier here. If you put it on there, make sure you can do it fairly well. Voice experience. Again, this is what I talked about before. Be careful not to put anything on here that indicates you are a newbie. Okay. Um, if you are brand new to the business and you don't want to sound like a newbie, just say something like, I'm a full-time professional voice actor operating from a high-quality home studio, and I'm looking forward to meeting all of your needs as a service provider, blah, 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 blah. Come up with a language. By the way, feel free to copy, paste, and plagiarize anything you want off of my profile. You can take it word for word, make it your own as you please. A lot of people have. Please just don't take my clients unless it's in fair competition. But other than that, feel free to take whatever language you want and put it up there on yours. It's worked for me over the years, and it's worked for a lot of the people I've taught. So you can use it as well. Training, again, I've told a lot of people I'm not a big fan of seeing a long list of coaches in this section, including myself. The people I work with, I often tell them, on the online casting sites listing coaching credentials, the only people that you're really impressing with that are your fellow talent. There's a very minor risk that you'll get a client who doesn't know the business very well and will land on your page and see this big list of academies and coaches that you've worked with and say, are they still training? Are they new? What's going on? They don't know that most talent do coaching on a continuing basis throughout their career. They may not know the industry that well. So I prefer to put something more general here, but this is a minor point. This is not going to be a big deal breaker for most clients. If you want to be loud and proud about who you've coached with, that's fine. Studio equipment. Now, I'm going to come off as a little bit of an elitist here, but it's for everybody's own good. And I've got a rule about listing your studio equipment on Voice123, and that is, we all know, and I recommend to a lot of talent who are starting out something as simple as a Rode NT1A microphone and a Scarlett 2i2 for a preamp, and you're going to get a very good sound out of that. You're going to get a professional sound out of that, especially if the acoustics in your environment are what they should be. But these production companies, in particular, the production companies, some of the ad agencies, especially the coastal ones, New York, California, Chicago, they will see inexpensive gear as the mark of an amateur, even though we all know you can get great sound out of it. So you can potentially turn off, especially some higher end clients, by listing gear that is not for lack of a better word, a little shiny and sexy and looks like something that, that is aspirational. So my rule is, frankly, if it costs under $1,000, don't put it up there. Just again, say something like what I've got at the top there. I have a fully outfitted professional studio, blah, 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 blah. Make it more general. Put something there. Otherwise, it looks like you're leaving it blank on purpose for a reason. But don't go into specifics if you have inexpensive gear. The gear's fine. We all know that. But the people hiring may not, and you can get some bias and some rejection based on that if they're taking the time to go through your profile meticulously. And some companies, the bigger companies, often will, because they really do want to vet a little bit who they're working with and make sure that that there aren't any areas of danger or red flags or concerns. All the rest of the items on the profile are pretty self-explanatory. I want to talk about demos. Let's go back up to the top here, if we will. And as they're scrolling up, you can see all the different demos that I've got on my profile. I have the advantage of being a demo producer, so it's not that difficult for me to put together a new demo for myself. But I've got about 15 of them up here. That can be an expensive proposition if you are getting your demos professionally produced, and you should be, okay? Everybody should have at least one or two high-quality, professionally produced demos. In an ideal world, if we can scroll down just a little bit to that section of categories I offer my services for, right there. In an ideal world, we would have a fully professionally produced and individually scripted and very detail oriented demo for each of those categories. But if you're going to do that, that's going to cost you about $20,000. So that's not realistic for most people, and I think everybody understands that. What can you do if you don't have that many demos, and why is it important? The reason it is important is that one of the most effective ways of making yourself visible in search is by making sure that you have a demo in each and every one of these categories, regardless of whether or not it is a perfect fit for that category. The reason that that's important is because demo category, now you can search by keyword on Voice123, but you've got to enter the keywords manually. So people do that, But many of the searches being done on Voice123 are being driven by demo category. That's one of the most often selected criteria to determine what a buyer is looking for if they're looking to hire a voice talent directly or send a private invitation. And you want to appear in those search results. You want to be relevant in those search results. So you really do want to have a demo in every category that you can reasonably compete in. If you look, if you're not a video games person, if you can't, if you're just not a character actor, that's fine if you don't have a demo there. You know, if you're not a trailer person, that also is okay. Although I do see commercials that are hired by trailer search from time to time as well. So, you know, the more the merrier here at the end of the day. But again, it's very expensive to have demos done in every single category. So assuming you're like most people and you've got a quality professionally produced commercial demo and a quality professionally produced narration demo of some point, most people will start with those two, unless you've got a very character or animation focus. But if you've got those two and or an animation demo, what should you do? Well, take your commercial demo and upload it to commercials, and then take it and upload it again separately to promos, and then take it and upload it separately again to TV shows and movies, and take it and upload it separately again to movie and game trailers. It's not a perfect fit for all of those categories, but it's not too far off the mark. It's professionally produced. It sounds great. You've been given good direction. You've had good reads under that director. The production values are off the chart. It's a good demo. You paid a lot of money for it. So get it out there where people can find it. Narration demo, IVR voicemail phone systems on hold messages. It might not be a phone system, but put it there. Training, business presentation, sales, and websites, which is a very broad category. Definitely want some kind of a narration demo there. You can put it in audiobooks, put it in documentaries, put it in podcasts, and some of the other categories too, if you want. What you want is you want somebody, when they do a search, you want them to be able to find you. And if they find you, at that point, you know, if I'm casting off of Voice123 and I'm casting for e-learning, and so I search in the training category for demos, and I hear a commercial demo, or I hear, you know, maybe a documentary narration or corporate narration, the very worst thing that can happen is I'm going to say, nah, it's not quite what I was looking for. So I'm not going to send that person a private invitation, and I'm not going to book them directly today. That's the worst thing that can happen. I'm not going to block you. Nobody has time for that. Nobody's that petty. And if they are, you didn't want their business in the first place. Trust me. But I'm not going to block you. I'm just not going to hire you that day, but I'm not going to put you on a list. Okay. But the best thing that can happen is I can say, it's not an e-learning demo, but wow, nice voice, nice production. They sound really good. Let me send them an invitation and see what they can do. Okay. You don't want to be invisible. You know, you can't win if you don't play. So if you're invisible, you're not going to have that opportunity to wow them with something, even if it's not quite the genre that they were looking for. Nothing bad can come of having your demos in these categories. Only good things can come of it, and especially when it comes to search results. So get up in as many of them as you can. Don't be afraid to do it, even if you're re-uploading the same demo a few times. You know, most people, when they land on your homepage, on your profile page, they're not going to go down and listen to every single demo. They're looking for one or two. So if you've got some redundant demos up there, it's not going to annoy them, because they're probably not pressing play 7, 8, 9 times anyway. They're looking for the ones that fit what they were looking for, and they're going to make their decision based on that. Better to have something good up there than nothing at all. Good. Let's go on to auditioning and pricing tips after I have a quick sip here. Very healthy, caffeine-free, zero Coca-Cola. That's what I tell myself, at least. So if we can go back to the slide, please, of auditioning and pricing tips. Okay, first one. Whoop, come back. There we go. First one is the most important thing here. Be selective when using SmartCast. Why? Because if you are too aggressive when using SmartCast, you will simply start to receive fewer and fewer auditions until you get cut off entirely. And now I want to get it from the horse's mouth, and you ladies can determine amongst yourselves as to which one of you will be the horse. But right now, what is the guidance that Voice123 is providing with regard to the maximum number of auditions you should be doing per day if you want to stay on SmartCast's good side?
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna answer that question. We suggest that you audition from 1 to up to 5 times in a day. Um, that's what we suggest, and that's why because you want to keep a balance on voice 1 to 3, right?
Mhm.
It's all about keeping a good balance and being very selective. Remember that the more selective you are, the better, and the higher a chance you'll have at landing a job through voice 1 to 3.
And what is it? Oh, go ahead, Laura.
I just want to add that you can check your auditioning percentage by going to your private stats. And what we suggest is to keep it up to, but no more than 200%. So that is something that you want to be constantly checking at least once a week. And yeah, like the top number of auditions I would suggest for you to do in a day would be 5. But that doesn't mean that you can do 5 every day. Otherwise, then you can start seeing that the auditioning percentage will be raising, and we don't want that.
So the percentage is more important than the number.
Not necessarily. The number, as we're saying, is 1 to 5. However, we have detected that if you do, for instance, 6, 6 could start raising the auditioning percentage, and having a higher auditioning percentage of 200% could start the system to restrict the number of auditions, the project invitations that you will be receiving. So just keep the happy number from 1 to 5 and just try to keep the balance.
Very good. And so that's very important because on Voice123 with SmartCast, as they said, if you're doing more than 5 a day, and if you're doing 5 every day, you're probably going to run afoul of it eventually. You're going to raise that number of auditions you've submitted versus similar talent over a certain period of time over 200%. And that's the number you really want to watch. If it goes over 200%, then the system will start to send you fewer audition opportunities. So, 3, 4, 5 a day, and watch that percentage very, very closely. If you go over that, you're going to start to get in trouble. And if you do go over that, you may need to take a little bit of a break and allow your statistics to catch back up so that you start receiving the quantity of auditions that you want. So you have a lot of choice. So be very selective. And what do we mean by being very selective? It means take a look at a couple of elements. The first is the job genuinely a good fit for you? If you're on SmartCast as a premium member, you shouldn't be taking a lot of wild chances. You should be going for jobs that you think are down your street in terms of your money voice, in terms of what you do particularly well, the kinds of voiceovers that you do particularly well, and the genres that you fit into best. Be very, very critical, and take a jaundiced eye at looking at those jobs and find reasons maybe not to do it, and then find the ones where you can't find a reason not to do it, and let those be your 3 or 4 that you may do on a given day. The other element that you should be looking at is the freshness of the job, and I don't mean the way that it smells. The freshness of the job means how new is it? Has it just been posted, or are you coming in on the 3rd or 4th wave of SmartCast when 30, 40, 60, 80 people have already had a look at it, and it's already got 20 or 30 or 40 submissions on it? That's an important thing to think about. And for me, I use a metric on Voice123, especially when I've got a really busy day and my inbox is stacking up, to determine which jobs that I want to do, I want to audition for. And that metric, the cool thing about Voice123, and I think they're the only site that does this, is they allow you to see not just how many auditions have been submitted, but they allow you to see how many have been reviewed. And that's the more important number. On Voice123, because of the fact that you're working with a client directly in terms of payment from the beginning, the client, because of that, there's no payment mechanism. They're not getting their hands in the pie, which is good. But it also means that the client does not actually have to close the job when they've hired their talent. And many clients do, but many clients don't. And so one of the phenomenons that creates, even though it's a positive thing, is from time to time, you can wind up with what I call a zombie job floating around on Voice123. And it's not something out of The Walking Dead. Don't be scared. But it's a job that has already been hired, but is still open and taking in SmartCast invitations. So if you run into that situation, or well, you won't know if you're running into that situation, the way to avoid running into that situation is to take a look at how many auditions have been submitted and then look at how many have been reviewed. Now, this works on Tuesday through Saturday, and it doesn't work following a holiday. Doesn't usually work following a Sunday. But if the job has been on Voice123 for 24, 36, 48 hours. And it's a weekday and it hasn't been a couple of holidays before. If it has been a couple of holidays, go back a couple days before that, and judge whether or not they may still be opening auditions. But if it's Wednesday and the job was posted Monday and it's got 40 submissions and 16 have been listened to, there's a pretty good chance they've already found their voice and they've moved on. And that's a job that you just may not want to audition for. On the other hand, if there are 80 submissions and 0 have been listened to, there's a pretty good chance they're going to sit down and listen to them all in one go. Now, it would certainly be better if you were early at number 5 or number 10. But if you have a choice between being number 81 and doing watching a Seinfeld rerun, then you want to go ahead and take a crack at that job if it fits what you want to do with SmartCast. If it's not going to drive your numbers up, and if you think it's a good fit and there aren't any other great jobs out there at the moment, go ahead and do it, because you're still probably going to get a listen at that point. The exception to this rule would be when you're in the job on Voice123. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see two things. One is in blue hypertext. It's the client's voice seeker ID number. And also at the bottom, there's a little orange bar that says click here to find out more about this client. If you click on that, that will take you to a page that shows you the client's history, including all of the jobs that they've cast on Voice123 in the past, and very importantly, the percentage of auditions that they've opened on each of those jobs in the past. So if you see that the client consistently opens 100% of the auditions that are submitted, then forget what I told you. If you like the job, if it's good for your SmartCast profile, go ahead and do it. But if you see that they typically open 40, 50, 60%, and they've already opened 40, 50, 60%, and the job's 2 days old and there are 24 that haven't been listened to, they're probably done. They've probably found their voice. That's one that I would pass on. And Umberto asked the very important question of, if it's a numbers game and you can't do more than 4 to 5 auditions per day, how do you, how do you get volume off of Voice123? If you're on SmartCast and you're following SmartCast strictly, volume is not the name of the game. What you're looking for are clients who are going to become repeat and regular customers. You want to try and identify the clients that are most likely to hire you, and then maybe take a second level evaluation of whether or not that kind of a client is someone who's likely to come back in the future and present you with long-term income. Some of those, it's funny because a lot of people chase national broadcast work. National broadcast work is a fleeting thing. You might get a major campaign, but it might only be yours for a cycle or two, and then they're going to move on to a different voice. It's a capricious part of the business. Often pays very well, but it's a capricious part of the business. For me, when those little nationals come in, they're great. They're fantastic. I always joke that they pay for a vacation, but they don't pay the bills. What pays the bills are, volume, local commercial work, explainer videos, corporate narration, e-learning, which is one of the fastest growing and most lucrative parts of the business. I saw a job on 123 today paying 40 cents a word. That's fantastic. I mean, 10 to 30 cents is normal. 40 cents is out of this world. You're talking about, if you're a very proficient e-learning narrator, $1,000 to $3,000 per seat hour in many cases, especially if you're using outside editors. So these are the jobs, because those kinds of clients, e-learning, corporate, industrial, explainer, sometimes, small commercials like local automotive. If you become, a go-to person for a local automotive provider, they might be sending you 5-10 spots a month. They might only pay $200 a piece, but it's still, a couple grand a month, $3,000 a month off of that one client. E-learning, you can have clients that have 20, 30, 40, $50,000 a year off of one client. You want to build those relationships. So if you're on SmartCast as a premium member, which most people are, that's the name of the game on Voice123. If you want to have access to more jobs, Voice123 does offer a platinum level, which is $4,950 a year, and it turns off SmartCast. There are a lot of substantial eligibility requirements for platinum. They will evaluate whether or not they believe that you are going to be competitive, which is the most important criteria. Not anyone can just walk into platinum. You've got to show a track record of booking through the site and statistics on the site that demonstrate that you're already an established professional. But I am a platinum member. I have been for around 3 years now. It's quite a nice thing. I know there's a waiting list, I think, at the moment, but it's quite a nice level. When I was on Voice123 as a premium member with SmartCast, I was booking maybe 2 or 3 jobs a week, and with Platinum, I've tripled that, and I've stayed there. So it's a nice thing. I actually booked 6 jobs on Voice123 yesterday as a Platinum member. That's not usual. Average day for me might be 2, but it is quite a valuable thing because it does give you access to all of the jobs and allows you to come in early. But you make sure that you are qualified for it before you apply, and then they'll give you due consideration for Platinum. But on SmartCast, what you're trying to do is you're trying to identify quality long-term clients that you can build relationships with. And, that goes back to what I was talking about with the ethics and integrity of Voice123. This is a site that wants you to build relationships with your clients. They want you to make these clients yours. They don't have any vested interest in a client posting a job for a second or third time on Voice123. They're very happy if they find the talent that they're looking for the first time and they want to have a long relationship with you, because they're not trying to take 20% out of every job that's being posted. So look for the clients that are going to be long term and focus on those auditions. Good. How much should I charge? Boy, there's a fun one. I know Voice123 recently has embraced and promoted the Global Voice Acting Academy's rate card that they've posted on their site. So if you find the GVAA site and take a look at their rate card, that is probably the best guide out there right now to determine what you should be charging for just a wide variety of jobs. I had some input putting that together, as did a lot of other well-known people in the voiceover business. That rate card really is comprehensive. It gives you from a low to high range. So, if it's a local commercial, might say $100 or $150 on the low end and $500 or $600 on the high end, and you make your decision based on other factors there. But that is really my recommendation if you want to know what you should charge. Look for that rate card. Now, that being said, a lot of the jobs that are being posted on Voice123 have set budgets. You can put in your remarks that that's not the budget that you're interested in doing the job for, and if they want to hire you, then you can try and negotiate a higher fee. But most of the time, if they put a set budget on Voice123, that's what they're looking to pay in general. Not always, but in general. So you need to determine whether or not that's fair. Again, looking at that GVAA rate card, looking at other references, SAG-AFTRA's card. Don't look at SAG-AFTRA's card for narration. It's low, too low. But for broadcast work, the SAG-AFTRA card is fair. In fact, it's probably the industry standard. So you can take a look at that. Take a look at GVAA. Use those as guides and try and intuit what you think is a fair rate for that job. If you see a budget range, if they've got 200 to 500 or something like that, historically being in the middle is usually going to be the best place to be. Now, that assumes that the usage is fair and that the length of the content that they're asking you to perform is fair for the budget range that they have. But if it is, you don't want to come in low. You don't want to be, if you go to the meat counter at the grocery store and you see a sign that says discount meat, most people are going to say, yeah, not so much. Same thing happens when I'm casting on. You have somebody jumping in?
Sorry to interrupt you, J. Michael. We have
Sure.
about 3 minutes left of our webinar.
Do we have a solid hour?
Yes, sir.
Oh, here I was thinking we could go a little bit further. So,
I'm so sorry, but if you could wrap it up and then we could answer the QA questions.
You bet. GVAA rate card for how much should you charge? Get coaching, get professionally produced demos. If you can't, think about this. You're competing against me for a lot of these jobs. You're competing against Bev Standing. You're competing against Rick Regan. You're competing against Kim Handysides, Amanda Sellers, a lot of stars out there. Get the coaching that'll make you competitive with us, and make sure you have demos that can also compete with us. Q&A lightning round, fire away.
I apologize for that. Okay, guys, so we will go ahead and if you want to submit your questions, we will answer them really quick. We do not have enough time to answer all of them, so we will answer them by email, or if you have any more questions besides the ones that you just posted there.
I see a few in here, so I'll do a quick lightning round on them.
Sure.
Let's see. Some of these were answered already. Hold on. Can SmartCast be tightened up? I'm getting invites for Arabic accents, British, UK, Spanish. One of you guys could probably handle that better than I can.
Sure, I know that he's asking that he's receiving several invitations with about other languages. You have to know that the way SmartCast works is that SmartCast starts inviting talents through batches, from best matching to least matching. When a project is not, when auditions have not been like fully submitted to a project, like per se a client asks for 20 auditions, then the project still has 12 auditions there, SmartCast will start inviting talents until it reaches the total number of the spots required by the client. So that's probably why you're receiving those invitations. I suggest that you disregard them. But if you can take just search through your through your profile and make sure that you have the very extensive voice description section that you want to describe your voice, the accents that you really do, and if you have any other probably another keyword that it's causing SmartCast to do that, please revise that and make sure to remove it.
And one last one, John Malone asked, what are your thoughts on using self-produced demos or dry voice tracks as demo material in some categories? Personally, my thoughts are don't. However, is it better than nothing? Maybe. But if, you know, the demos, if the purpose of the demos is to be hired by search or by private invitation, if they're not to the same standard as the other people that are being pulled up when someone does a search, they're not really serving much of a purpose there. They're probably going to cause you more harm than good. I know it's a lot of money to get professionally produced demos. I understand that, but this is a business, and you've got to invest in your business and treat it like a business. So if the funds are tight, you know, there are a lot of organizations out there that offer capital. Beg, borrow, steal. If you're really good and you got to get into it, and you know you're going to make some money, do what you have to do. But a non-competitive demo is a non-competitive demo. Oh, he says, as opposed to using your commercial demo in every category, no, I would rather have a quality, professionally produced demo in those categories than content that sounds amateurish. I mean, maybe e-learning, you can get away with it, but I'd still rather, you know, when you work with a producer, they're going to go over scripts, they're going to make sure it matches who you are, the production values are going to be high. Is it better than nothing in e-learning or corporate? Maybe, but marginally.
Perfect. I know that there's someone called Ricardo. He's asking about how to make your demo on your mobile by clarifying that the final voiceover will be done with professional tools, software, and hardware. We suggest that you, like from the Voice123 side, we suggest that you do submit a high quality audio. And this is because this is what clients look for the most. They want you to be able to produce a high quality audition. So
if when I'm casting, if it doesn't sound like it came from a studio, and I understand people may not be in their studios, but I don't care. I have to be sure that I can get the audio I'm looking for from you immediately. And because you're not giving me that sample, I'm really not going to listen to your read. I'm going to 3 seconds. If I hear it's on a mobile phone, I'm just going to pass on it. And I know a lot of people who have hired me over the years say the same thing.
Okay, I know that we have a lot of questions regarding coaching. We highly recommend J. Michael Collins. You can visit his website as you see it on the screen. J. Michael, if you want people to contact you, where should they contact you, like besides your personal website?
Sure. Best way to contact me is email jmichael@jmcvoiceover.com. I don't accept everybody who contacts me. I want to make sure if I work with you that you will see return on investment. So I may want to hear some auditions or some other audio or do a talent evaluation with you, but I'm happy to receive any and all requests, and we can talk about whether or not it's a good fit.
Okay, so you guys know if you want to contact J. Michael, just go ahead, shoot him an email or visit his website. We do have a coaching list. If you want, you can email us at help@voice123.com. We can answer all of the questions that you have regarding this webinar, and we can also send you a list of coaches that we have, which are which all of them are Voice123 experts, just as J. Michael. But contact J. Michael; he's the best. We love J. Michael.
You guys are sweet.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining this webinar. J. Michael, thank you so much. You're a sweetheart.
Well,
and you're a beloved Voice123 expert. guys, if you have any questions, as I said before, just feel free to send us an email to help@voice123.com. We will answer the questions that you currently have, and we will send you an email. J. Michael, if you want to say something, and if you want to wrap it up, go ahead.
Thank you all for being here. Again, it's an honor and a privilege. Thank you, Voice123. If you're not already a member, I don't know if you had to be a member to sign up for this or not, but if you're not, sign up because it's the best site out there. Thanks.
Yay. Well, thank you so much, guys. And we say hi from Torre Technologies, which is our father company. So let me post the video here. I'm Vanessa. Here's Laura.
Hi.
And there's Juanita.
Hola.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Make sure you keep in touch with your emails and sign up to new upcoming webinars. Bye.
Hasta la vista, everybody.
Hasta la vista.
Hi, guys.
Bye, J. Michael.
Bye.